Other symptoms associated with an acoustic neuroma is vertigo, veering off to one side when you're walking, so disequilibrium. You can also get facial numbness on that one side, possibly facial paralysis or Bell's palsy. And that's because it can also impinge against the seventh cranial nerve, the facial nerve. And in fact, I had a patient today who attended with Bell's palsy. They had a middle ear infection, which caused inflammation of the seventh cranial nerve, and it has improved. Fortunately, they had droopiness on one side, watery, itchy eyes as well, an inflamed eye, and it has settled, but the hearing hasn't. So again, we've referred them on to ENT. They'll need further investigation, most likely a scan as well. Sounds as though they've suffered from an acute sensorineural hearing loss. So they've lost their they did lose their hearing suddenly. So they had a viral infection which affected not only the seventh cranial nerve, but which is now resolving, but also the eighth cranial nerve, the cochleovestibular nerve, so the auditory nerve. But the auditory nerve hasn't recovered, and there's still a hearing loss. And there is a critical time window. If ever you lose your hearing suddenly, it's always best to go and see a doctor, audiologist, even A&E if you need to, as soon as you can. Because if it is caused by a viral infection or an autoimmune response by the body, there's a 48-hour time window if you're prescribed oral steroids. Sometimes they can also be injected via the eardrum, so it's called intratympanic cochlear perfusion. The hearing loss can be reversible, or at least in part reversible. So it's very important. Now, of course, you can get a sudden hearing loss just due to wax, and it's just created a complete seal. You could have had a middle ear infection, you blocked two-station tubes. There's a number of factors, but it's not something I would recommend just to ignore. So definitely get that investigated. So the patient has tinnitus in this ear, and I wanted to avoid using suction as much as possible. So I've removed the majority of the debris using a Jobson horn. At that stage, I showed the patient the inside of her ear, and I asked whether they were happy with this. Because we could have that stage, the whole eardrum was visible, they could hear it a lot better again, but they have got this kind of coating of, and I would say this is a combination of dead macerated skin, so skin that's shedded from the ear canal but failed to migrate, and that skin kind of just decomposes, it wilts, it becomes damp and moist, it can absorb any moisture or water that may enter the ear and then overhydrate, swell and burst. It becomes very mushy and macerated. Also, as I mentioned, this patient uses this prescribed heavy-duty corticosteroid cream, and I'll discuss that a bit later, because we've given some advice to the patient surrounding that. In fact, I'll discuss that now. So this particular cream, it's really effective, they've got the ointment version, and there's also a cream version, and the ointment version is very greasy, just like this, and that's designed more if the skin is dry and itchy. The cream is, after doing some more research on what they've been prescribed, the cream is more effective for more moist and damp skin and weeping skin, and that's what this patient's got. And I suspect a lot of this debris, it's not just damp, dead skin that has died and failed to migrate, and any product discharge secreted by any bacteria or fungi. I also think a lot